Can't hear it? You can't hear the video? Back to that. Gotta open up with this music here.
Thread a needle, golden yarn.
Can you hear it?
Pressure bust pipes, or creates VVS cut ice. Up nice, we pump pipes to relieve the stress. Fuck life, we go from thug life to screaming we the best before calling every girl a bitch. The pearls were pitch, Jews we toss, left the world a dish. Food for thought, leave a tip for the leadership. Avoid the GMO, eat what you grow, reap what you sow, reap the rest. Rapunzel, thread a needle, golden yarn, holding on. Two runs of Colombo, older uncles in the golden dawn, nephews in the vestibules, holding arms, throwing bombs at the head of fiends. Role model Pablo in the Medellin. The people that you let deceive you is the closest ones. The nephews, the uncles, house the tools out, forcing you to crack the safe and take them jewels out. Crack the fridge and take some food out. Family sits at the table. Shit, the same family kills. Became the label. More horrors than Amityville. The haters in the game can turn fatal. You can change your name, but never change your label. Once you've been labeled, able to bring it straight to you. Jokes on me, April Fools. You can take the tool to fake my whole shit. Who wanna lay in fools? That's why I keep the heater on me. All your social traits show you sweet and horny. That's where them cobras lay. The coldest stain was overlaid by a poker face. I got my Joker on. Jared Leto, open case, fed placebos, cold race. Golden off to close the case. Fighters touching light discussions over nice production. Pipes be busting. Desert eagles in these golden palms. Just angel of light, you know, an angle of light. A stranger in the night, entangle in the fight, the strangle in the life, the changing of the gods, the rearranging of the cards. Dr. Strange in them foreign cars. We was icons before they in the night in the Mark Buchanan, 3-5s in the 70s, knee high in the 70s. Now it's Ebony's in every prison, deadly missions like Debbie Fisher, heavy scripture, heavy mixture, cherry elixir at every bar mitzvah, moving grams, playing losing hands, niggas losing band. We in the music band, and they wanna stroke my ego, invoke my evils. Man, I spoke to people with that coke with ego. Yeah, the dope is lethal. My commentary is like commissary for these broken people. Food for thought. I'm on my shmoney grind. Bentley truck, same color as the rising, the price of your organs rising. If niggas ain't talking about organizing, it's no communication or rising.
All right, there you have it, y'all. VVS.
Well, I mean, better scoop on something.
Twin album. You dig? Go make sure you stream the Twin album. I believe it's on the streaming platforms. Tidal. I know I got it on Apple. You know, go and get the Twin album. That's 23 to 24 copy. If you know it's right. If you have a connoisseur type of mind. If you have a collector's mind, you know that buying the physical copy is the come up. So twinthealbum.com, you could get your physical copy of the double album. One album is blue, one album is red. It's a double disc. The blue disc, Blue Pill is going retarded on it. The red disc, me and him is going retarded on it. All right, yes, so let's go through the I'm gonna play Orthodoxy. You know, I decided to start giving y'all a playlist of this music every intro because at the end of the day, you know, I can't assume that everybody heard the music that we've been putting out and whatnot. So Those will be the new intros. All right. We're going to go through the catalog. All right. Let's do the roll call. Florida is here on the check-in. I got some bars for you tonight, Florida. I got some food for you. Tucson, Arizona is in the Oakland is in the building. Okay, Philly is definitely in the salute to Charlotte is in the building. Charlotte got some bars for you as well. Broketown, Massachusetts. Yes, yes. All right. Houston is in the building. Largo, Florida. Miami's in the building. Colorado's in the building. South Carolina's in the building. Maryland is in the building. By way of St. Louis, Mound City. Akron, Ohio is in the building. Chicago, over east, is in the building. Tennessee is in the building. Houston, Texas is in the building. Washington, by way of New York, is in the building. Cleveland is in the building. Mississippi is in the building. Richmond, Virginia is in the building. You got bars for me. Do you have a check for me? Because that I work. This is a business. You know what I mean? I sell verses. You know what I'm saying? I don't work for free. You know, I'm not rapping in closets and whatnot. So if you got bars, mouth, Massachusetts, Greensboro, North Carolina, Eastburg, Virginia, New Orleans, St. Louis, Twin Cities is in the building. Largo is in the building. Winston-Salem is in the building. North Carolina, Norfolk, Vallejo, Nebraska, VA, Lansdowne, PA, Greensville, South Carolina, Arizona, 704, Miami, Florida, Detroit. Oh, yes, these are lava beads that I'm wearing. Yes, they are. Guilford, Florida is in the building. Cleveland is in the building. South Central Los Angeles in dysfunction. Miramar, Florida in this building. South side of Houston, Texas, the hood. Hiram Clark in the building. Nashville, Trail of Tears in the building. Seattle in the building. Okay. London is in the building. Winchester's in the building. Queen City of Charlotte is in the building. Florida's in the building. Real heavy. Man, Florida. What you mean, where did I get this neck from? What are you talking about? This right here? This bad boy right here? This thing is dragging. Hold on. Look at me. Look at my mink. My mink is dragging. Go to the floor. Cooking tonight. This ain't Ralph though. You know what I'm saying? It's a little more expensive than Ralph, actually. But we got to remind each other of how we was dripping many, many moons ago, many equinoxes ago. You know, this is minimum how the drip look. Don't get excited. North Alabama's in the building. Chi-Town is in the building. Home of the talk your shit. The guys of Southern California is in the building. The Bronx is in the building. DC is in the building. 4-4 is in the building. Talk black to me. Memphis is in the building. Memphis is in the building. Look, this is what I would want y'all to do in hindsight if anything ever happens to the guard. You know what I'm saying? They want the guard. They wanted to have some walkthroughs on Saturn. You know, I'm wanted many places. That's what y'all don't be understanding. You know what I mean? We're gonna talk about this later. I want y'all to go back. I want y'all to go back to these shows, right? And go back to the role. You know, do me. I be doing a lot of shit. And we're gonna talk about these things tonight. You know, in the wake of Miss Gayle King and, you know, this conversation that we're having about the need for black media and the dangers of not having black media or not having media to a point where mainstream media is afraid to ridicule, make fun of, and to utterly insult the intelligence of an entire race and then some. So, you know, say, yo, this is not something that nobody actually planned to put together, because let me show y'all how I deal in chaos magic. You know what I'm saying? Because some people will be like, Red Pill don't put no flyers out when he does his Twitter, and you know, all of these things that people want Red Pill to do, like, you know, the traditional way. Not realizing the way that I do Melanin Mondays, the way that I do Third Eye Thursday. Henceforth, Melanin Monday. Melanin unpredictable. You know, the shit pops up. You know, it's chaotic. It's chaos magic. Third Eye Thursdays. You know, this is also dealing with just energy, timing, magic, portals. So this is not prepared. So the people show up, they'll show up on their own call that they received. And the reason why I'm doing roll call, this is a form to show the importance of what is data. Okay, this is data 101. It's giving you an idea of how important geolocating is. It's giving you an idea of how important beta data, just regular data. Where are you from? What is it that you have come here to do? What is your contribution? Are you ready to watch this? Are you ready to invest? Are you ready to, you know, all of these questions should be asking. All of this information should be extracted, because and wisdom and all of that fly shit important. But information, data is worth more than oil. So you know, you benefit by tapping into a person who's living in the now. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing a little bit more than just the now. You know what I'm talking about? I got my, we're gonna talk about future as well. You know what I'm talking about? Wipe me down, because it's some interesting things happening in the conjunction time or the window of Saturn and Pluto. We could close our eyes and throw and throw the dart, and it's gonna go bullseye at this point. So for my upcoming presentation entitled "Fear of a BLACKAMOOR Messiah," hashtag 2020 Year of Fear. All right, the first Messiah, which is a very popular, a very the highest of your master teachers and my peers have said hands down this is one of their, you know, favorite presidents because of the prophecy that's been laid out. Fear of a BLACKAMOOR Messiah. I've been doing it since 2016, and the information is life saving. And I didn't, you know, this is what the people. I'm not self-anointed, my nigga. And you know, sometimes that's being anointed by others. So, you know, that's it. I'm not self-anointed. I'm not pouring African oil all over me. The people do that. So they're like, yo, this is prophecy. And then I agree, because it is. Yeah, but the information that we're going to get into tonight is going to just be dealing with history, right? This is what is known as Black History Month. So it's only right that we history that people who call themselves Black can identify with. Can I get an amen? JT, the bigger figure, creating a bridge to Africa. goes to I hope JT doesn't bring. I know that JT is bringing entrepreneurship, but he's bringing a lot of the street culture to Africa, which isn't completely bad, but you know it has to be. And he's not negative like that, like that. You know what I mean? From what I've seen in his tweets and things of that nature, he's bringing something. But you know, he's bringing a lot of positive thug energy, positive. Should give little emphasis that part. But you know, kudos to that brother. And I hope that he stays in Africa and continues to build that bridge because he is very talented. He is actually he's a perfect example as well that I'm going to get into when I talk about, you know, people in our community who are underappreciated, you know, the geniuses amongst us who are underappreciated, who are not able to give us their best version of themselves because the people have not, you know, people like a brother like JT Bigger Figure. He's technologically, you know, ahead of his time because, you know, he's like the Elon, he's like Elon Musk for the hood niggas. You know what I'm talking about? He be giving the hood niggas technology. He be giving the hood the technology, you know. Yeah, his mixtapes was definitely fire. By the end, now I don't know if I'm gonna be locked because I be playing in my hair like this. This is my therapy, bro. I might have sat in the crib one day, a whole day, and went through my hair. He has an entrepreneurial spirit. I could tell that he was involved in some form of merchant tradesmanship in his past lives. I'm talking about he probably was, because the people that you see right now that's in the front on some star shit, but they're starring through the industries and whatnot, mostly the music industry, because remember, based on the processions, based on the way that the constellations are lined up, certain people are going to shine in certain industries, and that's where the superstars. But the superstars of today, some of those spirits were what were considered the superstars of days before, but they, of course, they weren't fucking rappers. They might have been a superstar warrior, you know what I mean, who basically won mad wars, you know. Oh, that might go on the album though. That might go on no, that's not going on Scorpion King. That's gonna come out soon. So yeah, you know, these people who are in the front that everybody is looking at and giving all of this, and you know, at the top of, you know, the totem pole in like nigga in the nigga kingdom and stuff like that, you know, their spirits are definitely, or their bloodline is, you know, 8 times out of 10 a bloodline that was always, you know, at the top, or always basically generating a lot of attention, right? So, see, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate that lookout. You know what I mean? And that means a lot, you know. But I would also say this, you know, flattery could turn in operated. My nigga, I'm a Tesla and I jump off the top rope. I'm a wrestler. That's a bar. Don't take that, you know. But yeah, flattery could turn into battery, you know. I'm a man of strategy. So, you know, flattery got an energy that charges up a battery, meaning that if we're gonna say lofty things like that, we should be able to do lofty, you know. I'm a god, yeah, let's go. I'm ready to do some godly shit. You know what I mean? You know, God need a budget. You know what I'm talking about? I would say more so that, you know, no, I am a Scorpio with it, not humble with it. I'm a Scorpio with it, meaning that we absorb. You understand? We take all of the negative things. You know, we actually perform at a better, at a higher rate, at a more creative rate, at a more effective outcome when our backs are against the wall. Nigga, you know how many times I was in Bikini Bottom with Patrick and SpongeBob? But it's when you it's when you are at those places. It's when you're in those dark spaces. You feel me? It's when you're in the box, like my nigga Rowdy Rich. When you in the shoe, nigga, that's when you actually supposed to be writing your motherfucking magnus opus, whatever it might be. Some niggas wrote a hot 16 with some hot shit on the wall inside of the shoe. You know what I'm talking about? On some Pop Smoke shit. Some people wrote books, autobiographies. You know, some people wrote motherfucking masterpieces. Some people drew their magnus opus. You know, while they was, you know, some niggas recited their whole album while. Believe you me when I tell you, you know, you're gonna find the gems of society in places where there's war, in places where there's a lot of quote unquote pressurized places or pressurized spaces. You know, not in a spaces. It's a bunch of bloodsuckers. You don't want to be around these moist niggas because they'll start sucking on your blood. You know what I'm talking about? And you don't want to be in the swamp because that's where these snakes is at. You know, that's where the snakes is at. So don't get around these I don't want to be around moistness. You know, I don't want to be around moistness. You know what I'm talking about? So the Scorpios, you know, we are some interesting, and I'm not just a Scorpio. I have multiple, you know, my chart. My shit is lit. You know what I'm talking about? I have influences from multiple planets, but most of those planets are, you know, the majority of those planets have conjuncted. You know, the majority of those planets have conjuncted. So it's really about the now. You know what I'm talking about? I'm going to take you on a history ride. I'm going to take you on a DeLorean tonight. But I want you to focus on the now because the now is where the power is at. You know? And right now, everything that's going down is tied into everything that's been going down. You know? That's the keys that you need in order to see this thing for what it is. You know? So, you know, let me get into this thing right here before we get into the show tonight. But what I was saying that the majority of the people in the roll call are the states that I'm going to be talking about tonight with the Indians. I'm going to be getting into Indian American, European slavery, Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, Virginia. We're going to just breeze through some stuff real quick. And then we're going to touch on Miss Gail and all of these other people with hair hats that are out here acting crazy. I think it's in the hair hats. I think the coronavirus is mutating inside of the hair hats because first it was Nicki Minaj and now it's Gail with the motherfucking with the snuffleupagus. Did you see a hat? That shit look like I don't want to repeat what I said earlier. Go to my Instagram and you could check the live that I did. I'll try to upload it tonight. You know what I mean? But go to the gram that they're threatening to take from me. You know, they talk about that. They said that I'm promoting hate speech. This is what Instagram, this is what Mark Zuckerberg, who, you know, is one of those people that are, you know, part of what is known as FANG. FANG is Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google. These are basically, this is a stock. But when you see how these platforms are working together in the deplatforming campaign and how they're working together to ghost people and do a whole bunch of digital, you know, some matrix shit. That's what they at. They coming at people at the same time. So Facebook, Facebook, Instagram, they starting to act funny with the censorship. They deleted like 5 of my posts, right? You know, no surprise, right? People be like, no surprise, Red Pill, you out there wilding. No, actually, I'm not. You know what I'm talking about? Actually, I'm not. Like, when you really look at the page, it's not wilding about anything. You know, it's really just putting truth up and, you know, engagement. You know, it's just engagement. So it's not fake news. It's memes and it's news articles. So if news articles are alarming people like Instagram or, you know, Facebook, then what are they telling you? It's not for my videos. You know what I mean? It's only for posts that are basically news articles. So the same way that they could take your post down is the same way that they could burn the books back in the days. It's a level of censorship that's akin to book burning. So the quieting that they're doing, the deplatforming that they're doing, this is an akin to not just a book burning, but this is your inquisition. You understand what I'm saying? This is your level of inquisition, because the same data that I collect from you in a roll call is one smidgen, about 2% of the 100% of the data that they're collecting to each one of us little ants crawling on this web called the World Wide Web. It's just called the internet, where they collect terabytes of information everywhere that you crawl through this bitch, unless you silver surfing on the motherfucking deep web or something. And a lot of people are not. And for those that are, they not saying nothing about it, because I don't see their videos telling niggas what's popping on the deep web and how to get in there. Web. How about that? So don't fall for that one. These niggas say that shit because it sounds cute. All right, remember the movie Equilibrium with Taye Diggs? You know what I'm talking about? And Christian what's my dude that was Batman? Christian Bale? Yeah, the VPN. Wherever your browser, you're gonna have to protect it with VPN, so you can protect some of your data from being basically picked up and all of the shit that they're collecting on you. You dig? So the movie Gattaca, the movie Fahrenheit, right? 1984. Like, these are not just regular books, y'all. Why do they have every single Negro reading that shit? Fahrenheit 4 deal with predictive programming that these Germans and these scientists and these social engineers, like the Edward Bernays of the world, the people who are hand in hand with the marketing departments, public relations departments, you know, they are basically working. Right, with, here you go. This author, Philip H. Dick, right? This is one of their master teachers, bar none. He's a god to them, right? So Sigmund Freud, Philip, you know, these Book of Eli as well. I keep buffering. Yeah, you know. Just go, you know, don't worry about it. We're gonna have to work through it. So the movie that I said was Gattaca. The movie that I said was Fahrenheit 451. The movie that I said is also 1984. And also the movie that I said was Book of Eli. These movies are dealing with the censorship. The censor. Yeah, we'll go through the Joker. We'll go through the Joaquin Phoenix speech in a little while. The censorship of information, and the way that they're saying the information is through the book. So the book connotation for the information, because of course books have information in them. So the emoji for information is a book. So the burning of the books is the burning of not only the information, but the people that have the information. So these movies and these books that they have us read, that's their level of predictive programming. These are selected books. These are selected movies. They all fall in alignment with an agenda, a concerted agenda, in control for basically creating such playlists. The playlists are the books that they give all of the colleges to say all of these students have to read them, whether in Ivy League, state-run colleges. Thank you for the Cash App. I appreciate it. I would appreciate if we get Cash App. Reasons why TH3RD is not on this show tonight is because I did a show with TH3RD. It was 3 hours and a few other minutes, and I have Blue Pill, the legend, the motherfucking icon, Blue Pill, on the show last night. And this is a celebrate 10 years of feeding everybody food that will not give them the coronavirus. We didn't feed you rats and tell you it was chicken. And I got one Cash App last night for my brother Thailand. I think I'll post it and show. And I know KT was a guest and he got supported and whatnot because he's supposed to be. Every time you see KT, you should make it rain. Just because of the legend that he is. You should make that man, you should get that man his flowers every time he comes through any door, any portal, any. So with that, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm not doing that to myself. You know, we gotta have to, like, if we bosses, we gotta boss up. And we gotta, if everybody's coming into this house rules is when you finish eating, clean your table off and leave a tip. That's how this shit should be working. You know what I'm talking about? Because being supported by 0.0000000000001%, that shit could play with your brains while you're listening to binaural beats. You know what I mean? And you functioning and whatnot. Now, what it does is it helps with this Scorpion King 2 album because, oh man, the pain is definitely going to be in the bars. But you don't ever want somebody who rides for you to feel unappreciated. Like he's just wasting his fucking time because this thing that we doing right here is a sacrifice. This is a freebie. I don't just give out Savokians, diamonds, and none of my shit is Fugazi. It's not cubic zirconia. None of my guests are Fugazi. You know what I'm talking about? It's like I'm not bothering these people that I'm bringing on my show. These are not niggas that I'm a fans of. This is my fucking circle, bro. I introduced these niggas to you. What are you talking about? The majority, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, we gotta. I will shut this page down and just fuck with my Patreons, the handful of those that they are, because at least they understand that it's about reciprocation. At least they know what this thing is. At least they know that if they say, yo, why don't you have your own streaming service? Why don't you have your this? At least they can ask that question because they're small investors. The 180,000 people, they can't say that because, you know, you got to put your, this shit is about putting your money or putting your support or putting your energy on, you cannot get this anywhere. How about that? You can't get this nowhere. I've gone on platforms and made this shit pop like I'm Baby Yoda, nigga. How about that? Like Billie Jean, fuck is you saying? And the thing with this industry, this is an unforgiving, this path right here, it keeps you, you know, it keeps you in a box. It keeps you, I'm in a box, my nigga. I'm doing a bit. And it has nothing to, nothing. This is the path. This is what I signed up for. This is the path. This is the pressure of the path. Understand this. You have to be able to withstand and shine. This is the pressure. You're watching a living carbon. You know, Kobe, the pressure that he had to go through. You know, the things that he had to endure. And then you seen him basically transition, but he became a diamond. He's immortalized. He's shining brighter than he ever shined. Right there, that's the princess cuts. You know, the pressure in life. You niggas is scared of pressure. You know what I'm talking about? People are scared of the pressure. And they, you know, it is what it is, but yeah. We're gonna bring Taj on when the time is right, because I would never bring somebody like a master teacher like that to a platform where it's disrespectful. Wasting my time. This information ain't, you know, I'm giving this to the family. I'm learning at the same time, but this is a treat. And we gotta fix this up. So I thank Mark Zuckerberg for acting like a hoe. I thank all of these people for this. And the way that my mind thinks and the way that I'm built and the way that I go out and get it, I'm such a motherfucking beast, especially when my back is against the wall. That's when I become creative. That's when I shine the best. You know what I'm talking about? That's when I shine the best. So, you know, wait till you see what we create. Wait till you see what's going to come out of the, you know, censorship that these platforms are putting on the truth. Because, you know, the way that if I got to give up my information and I can't give it up freely, then it's not free. I got to be able to spread my wings. I got to be able to take off. I got to be able to tap in. I need to be able to go into my flow state, something that a Gayle King can't do, something that somebody who's contracted to these small hats and whatnot, who basically signed an agreement. You heard her on her excuse. She blamed it on CBS. Why? Because she's saying that CBS controls. She says CBS controls all of her footage and how they decide that they want to put it out into the world. That's not what she's going to tell you, but that's what the fuck she's saying if you could read between the lines, because she said in the video, they said for me not to say anything and let the motherfucking heat come and it will go away. She said they said to stand down. Did they not say that? Did they not say that? So she's being controlled by whoever contract she signed so she could sit on that motherfucking news channel and get all of that money an hour. But there's a motherfucking clause in a contract that her lawyer, who's probably working against her and working in the interest, not probably, if he's not, even if he's of her color and race, it's still a motherfucking, you still have to put that on the jeopardy board because he might be working against her. But most definitely 99.8%, if they're not of the same nationality, it's already, you don't even have to speculate. He's not working in her interest. You know what I'm talking about? He's going to identify with the interest of whatever is going to help out the race or the nationality or the people that, or the tribe that he identifies with. It's a natural instinct in America in the 21st century. So whatever Oprah hooked her up with, she basically had to do the dirty work for these. Remember, they're not sitting up, it's Oprah, but it's the producers. Nobody who's gonna do the research and give us the name of the producers. Who is the whole team behind the segment? Who wrote the questions? It's not always Gail. She's sitting there asking the questions that they probably handed her and was like, ask all of those questions. I bet you they had something in her ear after homegirl basically shut her down and was like, bitch. And they was like, keep asking her, yo, ask her about if that was this or that was that. Because she said later on in her nigga splaining video, she was like, oh, I met Kobe before. Bitch, you didn't say that when you was talking to Lisa. You know what I'm talking about? You wasn't like showing up when Lisa was like, yeah, I'll be in parties with him. He'd be chilling. She wasn't like, girl, I already know. I was in his section back in the days. You didn't say that. Trying to blame it on the network. So Gail and CBS thinks that black people are stupider than we look. Or do we look that stupid? I want to know. Because somebody is taking advantage of your intelligence. I'm just letting you know. From a place where, from my vantage point, the way that I'm looking at it, the person that's really in the middle of this thing is, black people. You know what I'm talking about? They the ones who are bearing the brunt. They're the ones who are bearing the brunt. Of course, look, Okra and Fail King, those are tools of what you would call, if there was an Illuminati, they're beyond a bedwench. They're the tools. Power tools, my nigga. I'm talking about weed blowers that could blow trees away. These are some power tools that they got. But these is the tools of what you would identify as the Illuminati. You understand? Can I say that on YouTube? They would be the tools of a very powerful group of people who wield and shield power. Remember, wield, yield, and shield power. These are the power players. One of the most powerful players in that whole puzzle, my friends, in case you don't know. But if you were a student in any one of the lectures that have been done by yours truly in the past year and a half, then you've been introduced to Harvey Weinstein, and you've been introduced to Jeff Epstein, and you've been introduced to a quote unquote 1% of powerful people who are always connected to all of these stories of intrigue when it comes to the diabolical, capital punishment worthy crimes on the people. And one of the things that they have in common is the fact that they are very wealthy. And one of the things that we know, from petty criminals all the way up to blue collar workers, all the way up to shea butters, all the way up to people who are themselves knee deep in the underworld, we know that money, paper, buys you influence, wealth, and prestige, and money buys you a lot of cheat codes, right? A lot of cheat codes. But military, army, right? Empire, right? Empire, bloodline, okay? Money, power, prestige. What does that buy you? Nigga, immunity. Fuck is you talking about? More than a diplomat. And that's what Trump represents at this point. That's what Kushner represents. That's what some of these people like dude in Israel is representing. These are people, that's what even Weinstein to a degree will be representing. That's what a person like in Jeff Epstein, if it were to be proven that he is alive or somewhere on an island hiding, because the way that the whole story panned out, there is no telling whatsoever beyond any reasonable doubt that that man's body is in state. There was no funeral. Nobody said they were arguing over whether the autopsy proved to be him through blood samples. You didn't really catch that. But chances are he could be dead. So if he got dead, the government knocked him off. It wasn't like, you know, he killed himself. That's impossible. Somebody went up in there and choked him out. Probably Trump himself. You know what I'm talking about? Probably Trump himself or Giuliani himself. You know what I mean? Or Prince Andrew himself. That's how they look at the guards that they had watching Jeff Epstein. Did you see the guards that they had watching Jeff Epstein? They had Brother Man and Shaniqua and Sharky, what's her name? Shanae watching motherfucking Jeff Epstein, bro. Did you see them go to trial? The guards? The guards look like Rikers Island's guards. The guards look like top flight security, bro. The guards look like they work at Kids Foot Locker. You know what I'm talking about? Like, are you serious? These niggas don't even look top flight. They don't even look like they could make it to the top flight. These niggas look like Whole Foods security. And they didn't have them watching Jeff Epstein. They gave both of them some ecstasy and was like, go somewhere and have some fun. And then they went in there and either they killed that man or they put a body double in there. Remember Body Double? Who's gonna show their age and saw the movie Body Double? Because when I was young, that movie traumatized me because I was too young to. They drilled the nigga in the floor with a motherfucking power tool with like a not a jackhammer. I think either a jackhammer or a huge saw. It's crazy. So they killed Jeff Epstein. So I'm just showing you that don't be so naive. Like these people with prestige, the same bag that niggas want, so they could be motherfucking outlaws and whatnot. So they could live a life of some a mobster fantasy. Everybody want to be Frank, my nigga. Everybody want to be Sosa. Niggas want to be above the law. You know, what's the not to take anything away from my brothers and sisters that are seeking for sovereignty, you know, but sovereignty, you know, it's a sense of power that could be intoxicating, you know, to feel like, you know, to just imagine being sovereign when people are reading, you know what I'm talking about? When people are reading the Bible, the Biblios, and they're like, yo, this shit, no. They're like, this is when they're reading the prophet, when they're reading the works of the, you know, the white sovereigns and whatnot, the patriots and all of this stuff. Oh shit, I don't have to pay tax, and you know, I could command an airplane with you know, with my social. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that is enticing, and niggas is jacking for power. This whole thing about power, because we are powerful people who lost power. That's why they make you think having a fucking drug dealer reputation is powerful. Let me read this. The Matrix is made up from the time. It's all an illusion made from the archons. People like the Pope and the Cabal are used as embodiments here on Earth. Reptilians are bloodlines from Lucifer. Look at that. My brother Jason Elm Street, he's a legend. We met in Harlem. He just came from the pyramids. And he from the Bay, you know what I mean? California out this bitch, the West Side, throwing up them W's. This was like 09. You know, he said that we live inside of a giant prison. We are still enslaved. Yeah, I can understand that part. But even in this prison that we living in, like I said before, living on a planet of killers. We living on a planet of killers, right? Everything is trying to kill us on this planet. Everything is a killer on this plane of existence called the planet Earth. This is a plane. There's multiple planes of existence. But I have a bar that I wrote. I said, no, never mind. This planet here is an animal planet. Tell them that the cannibals ran it. Don't judge us until you come here and stand on the granite. From the bacteria, right? The motherfucking amoebas, the fungi, to the fish, the amphibian life, then the birds and the lizards, even the fauna. Kill each other on this planet. This is an animal planet. Everything is trying. This is a death planet. Everything on this planet is on kill switch. It's on kill mode, nigga. How about it? That's a fact. He wasn't born with no motherfucking paws, nigga. He wasn't born with no fangs, nigga. But they got niggas that was born with fangs and paws. A gorilla could knock your fucking back out. When you'll take a chunk out of your back, nigga. You got lions that could, you got Simbas out there that could knock your block off, literally. So they sent us to this planet, and you got to defend yourself because this is an animal planet. Tell them that this shit is on, everything is on kill. There's two primal forces on this planet, sex and survival. There's two primal forces on this planet, sex and survival. I said it in, I broke it down to knuckle dragger sense. I broke it down to a knuckle dragger degree. The only thing that we really exist here to do is procreate and, you know, and eat some motherfucking berries and shit every now and then. And then there's a European somewhere who coined the phrase sex and survival. So we're saying the same thing. It starts there. If you strip all of this away, if you take all of this off, right? You get rid of everything in the room. You take the rent, you throw it away. You take all of this stuff about buying clothes and whatnot. You say nobody has to wear clothes. You shut all of that down. Everything that man has created gets stripped from man until he's here as he came, naked, right? With a functioning man and a functioning woman. I'm saying that to not say that they have tendencies to whereas they're not, you know, biologically attracted to each other. Want to be grown tonight. So where they're biologically attracted to each other, meaning the same current that you would see, or the same extraction of energy that a magnet would cause against another magnet, where there's a pulling, there's an energy now, there's a magnetism, there's a force betwixt the two opposite energies, and they come together like a magnet comes together with another magnet to become one, and then to procreate, not what we've devolved into now when it's just about busting a nut and hitting it a certain way, or getting her to squirt all over mama's curtains, you know, shit like that the rappers say. No. The original act was one of procreation off the rip. And then there every, you know, I'm not gonna say every time, but you know, that's what it was. That's what it was really, you know, it was for that divine act. And then later on, y'all gonna want to get something to eat. But then somebody's gonna try to come and get what you got. Or something is gonna try to take your life because this is an animal planet, sex and survival. As long as I'm surviving and having sex, I'm good. There's some people like that. As long as I'm surviving in this jungle and I can have sex, I'm good. When they lock you up and they give you 20 years, when they lock you up and they give you 2 days, when they lock you up for 2 hours, my nigga, they take away the ability to have sex and it's just survival. And then the Aaron Hernandez and some of these other niggas turn to primal nature of man, sex and survival. So they just throw a whole bunch of niggas together knowing that the primal instincts will begin to kick in. Whoever it doesn't kick in on, hey, so what? But they know that man and flesh is weak. Industry is erected to break and to destroy and to buck break and to take away man as we know him. So we have to be mindful of that. We have to be mindful of that. Let me go and play this real quick, y'all. Do not let them people kidnap you and put you in no situation. I'm talking about your freedom means everything. Always remember that. Where did I get the cardigan from? It was a gift, to be actually honest with you. I think my aunt got it for me. Hold on. Here we go. Tell me if you can see this. Can you see this? Let me see. Let me share the screen. All right. Let me see something. Can you see the screen now? Yeah, you can see it? All right. There's the commercial. Look.
Growing health emergency. The new case confirmed in Boston, and word now that the department will be providing quarantine facilities if needed. Growing health emergency. The new case confirmed in Boston, and word now that the Department of Defense will be providing quarantine facilities if needed. The coronavirus death toll rising. This as there are now more than 12,000 cases confirmed worldwide. The Trump administration declaring a public health emergency. All this expected to have a major effect on businesses worldwide.
The U.S. military says if needed, it is ready to provide quarantine housing for up to 1,000 evacuees at bases in Colorado, California, and Texas.
In the middle of the Caribbean,
Exit doors!
a powerful earthquake rattled the region.
Guys, there was just an earthquake.
Panicked people running from their homes and offices.
The arrest of 3 alleged white supremacists is raising alarms ahead of a gun rights rally in Richmond, Virginia. The state's governor says there is credible intelligence of potential violence at Monday's event. Jeff Begayes is in Richmond outside of the Capitol. Jeff, who are these men?
Images presented in court Thursday paint a picture of a group preparing for battle. Long guns and some appearing to wear fatigues. One of the men, Patrick Matthews, is a Canadian Army veteran who is said to be an explosives expert. American Brian Lemley Jr. is an Army veteran who served in Iraq. The third suspect is American William Bilbrough. The men are alleged members of the Base, a neo-Nazi group that advocates violence against minorities, while rallying around slogans like "Save Your Race." Investigators allege the men had built a functioning assault rifle and had recently bought more than 1,500 rounds of ammunition.
Is over. So at this point, folks are starting to leave the Capitol grounds. They'll take buses back home. Many of them took buses from various parts of the state to get here today. But look, I talked to a couple of folks who were at the rally who said overall, they feel good about what happened, that, really nothing happened. And again, that was a good thing. And really with this out of that historic victory for President Trump in the impeachment trial, the Senate acquitting him on both charges. This was a straight party
You scared? Don't be scared. You scared? So that's the commercial. Yeah, we're gonna talk about some things on Sunday. They making a movie, y'all. They making a movie. 2020 is a movie officially. Yeah, we're gonna have to get on similar pages. I'm talking about? We're gonna have to get on, we're gonna have to get this information because you're gonna need to be aware of what's going on, the narrative. The narrative is definitely in effect. That march, the armed marches that you're seeing in Virginia and Kentucky, they're masking it by saying that these are the Second Amendment rights rallies. But what these actually are recruitments. And these are actually these white supremacists or these race soldiers getting together, these purgers getting together to basically either plan what is known as an insurrection or plan more attacks and activate more sleeper cells, in lieu of the multiple shootings, the massacres, the lynchings, the mass shootings. The majority of them were caused by members of what is known as white nationals or white supremacists. But at a rally such as that, and at the rally in Kentucky, none of that was brought up, and it wasn't treated as such. They weren't treated as homeland terroristic threats. They were not treated in any kind of aggressive way. Even, I'm going to show in a lecture that the police joined their actual rally with their weapons, right? With their weapons. They marched on Kentucky. This is when they were showing that they were basically blowing the dog whistle to say if Trump were to be impeached, not only were they ready to enact an insurrection, but they were basically warning the government that if the president was not acquitted, that they were going to they were going to basically either attack the government or they were going to do something within the borders that was going to be, detrimental to the safety of our people. This is what's been going on for about 300 years, since the 1800s, Yes, yes, armed patriots, not white supremacists. I even apologize for using that terminology. They're not white supremacists. They're armed patriots, or they're armed militias, basically. They utilize the guise of hunters and whatnot. They utilize the guise of hunting or being hunters to incite, to masquerade behind this militia type of rhetoric, this insurrection, this Confederacy type of rhetoric, that they're basically allowed to do. They're encouraged to do by people in the highest ranks of government. So I would never blame them. You know what I'm talking about? There's nothing that you can blame them for doing. There's not even something that you could get points on pointing out, because you could spend your whole life pointing it out. It's going to exist. This is a country that they took in Gunsmoke. A lot of, you know, they took it in with the pen also, but they took it in Gunsmoke. They took it with cannons. They took it with the help of tribes and whatnot who worked with them. You know, they took it with the help of mulattoes who were their offspring, some of them, and they worked with them. You know what I'm saying? So this is nothing to be surprised about. We don't need to act surprised. You know. Somebody said militias will never do anything. It's just propaganda. Okay. Okay. That part, right? That part. Okay. And Caucasians, ancestors are Neanderthals, not spiritual beings like we are. Our ancestors come from the 6 cradles. That do not stop them from eating your children. That even makes it more. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. If you could get on this thing and say that, then you should understand that these same people are willing to do whatever it takes to continue to have an upper hand or an interest. Do you know what they used to call? I was looking for the word the other day. During the times of slavery, a child or a pregnant black woman, when she gave birth, it was called capital, what was it? Natural gain. Wait. Natural gain. Natural gain is what it was called. You know what I'm talking about? They monetized these wombs. And these children that were born in the wombs of our mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, the black woman, the Indian woman, the indigenous woman, you know, the African woman, these children were taken by their fathers, who were these slavers and these traders, you know, and these these merchants, you know, and these pedophiles, and these were robber barons, and these were like, these were the embodiment. This is the words of the journals of both the friars, their own people. The French wrote about the Spaniards. The English wrote about the French. And they all told on each other. And they were like, these were some of the most demonic people that they've ever come across. Henceforth, you had this Protestant, Catholic, Roman Catholic, Protestant conflict that crossed the seas. It crossed the seas. It went across seas. It was in the Americas where they were going up against each other for hundreds of years. Yes, that's what we're going to talk about as well. The whole American economy is based off of slavery, from insurance to credit. I've been saying that for a few weeks now. You are absolutely correct. The whole capitalistic system, from the dead presidents that has Jefferson's, you know, that has all of these faces on it, Benjamin Franklin, Grant, Ulysses, you know, all of these faces, from the credit system to the insurance, Aetna, they were major insurers of black bodies. It's easy Google search. It's in Connecticut, the Aetna Life Insurance, Met Life Insurance. All of that was slavery. And remember, they did not have paper money. They were not dealing with dollars, and they were not even dealing with silverbacks like that at that point. They were basically dealing with credit. They were being extended credit by the banks. The banks were opening up in the colonies. They were not states yet. These were colonies. And they were trading what is known as species, which was gold. They were trading in species, which was gold, and things like silver. But then the Spaniards, the Spanish crown was pillaging Florida of their gold. You know what I mean? The English didn't have anything to do with that over in the South, up there by Virginia and places like that in the 13 colonies. They wasn't pillaging no gold. They wasn't getting no gold like that. The Spanish was taking all of the gold, and they was raping Mexico. And they were raping Mexico from the 1500s all the way into like the 18s, 19, or they were raping it for 300 some odd years, just going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, conquering with De Soto going through. He was going through all of these indigenous villages, which is now Alabama, Florida, Georgia. You know what I mean? His expedition, he was going through Pizarro over in Central America and Peru and all of that, excavating all of that, all of those rich minerals, all of those golds, all of those gemstones that you see at the Tucson Gem Show, where all of those white people are standing around all of these crystals, right? You got Europeans and whatnot, the descendants of the Cowboys and the 49ers and, these Jacksonians and whatnot. These were murderers, People be trying to celebrate Billy the Kid. These is fuck niggas, you know what I mean? They was out here killing black soldiers and black Indians and shit like that. All of those bandits that were coming out of those areas, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them were pieces of, they were not for us. They were pieces of shit. You live in Seminole, Florida, and it's still like that here. Yeah, they killed Trayvon Martin in Seminole, Florida. They killed Freddie Gray in Baltimore. That's the Chesapeake area. They killed Mike Brown in St. Louis. Remember, we brought the brother Nelson L on here to talk to you about St. Louis and Kansas City and the relationship between slavery, right? They killed the brother Alton Sterling in Louisiana. I told in the capital of Louisiana, Baton Rouge. I told you about what Baton Rouge has to do with slavery, right? They killed Freddie Gray in Baltimore. Baltimore was the ports. Maryland, Mary's Land, the Chesapeake Valley and whatnot. The Chesapeake, that's where they were manufacturing slaves. Slaves in America, the best slaves in the manufacturing of slave culture is Virginia. I don't, and that's not a slight to any of my Virginia people. This is not about you. This is about the people who took that land and named it Virginia, and had, those are the slavers and that niggas who you probably ride by every day and don't got no smoke for, don't got nothing to say anything derogatory or crazy to. But these are the people who were putting hot irons and basically selling our people who you claim that you love and that you claim that you got so much love for and you were banged for. Well, they are the ones, the people who are living in those colonial fucking plantation houses. Yeah, those tend to be the descendants. And everyone who was involved, not everyone, but a majority of them, their names are in mad books. They kept mad records. There's a long paper trail coming out of a lot of these goddamn territories when it comes to their involvement in a motherfucking human atrocity, a world crime. You don't have to dig deep to get justice. You don't have to dig deep to shame the devil, my nigga. So, this is something that I thought I had my fucking hopes wild high. I could do an 8-hour lecture about this ADOS thing and what happened and where I see it and what I thought it was going to do and what it could and with the potential of what it should and could have and would have done if things were really going the way they said that it was, because there's a lot of research that needs to be done. There's a lot of digging. It was a lot of elite alliances that needed to be made. All of the Moorish brothers and the indigenous brothers who be out there digging up information, you can't turn that shit away. What the fuck is wrong with you? You can't belittle that shit as if that shit is not nuggets, as if people don't possess information that could completely take the motherfucking crust off of your pineal goddamn gland. You fucking retard, you. If you don't wake up, where the fuck you niggas is trying to wake up about some shit that went down in China, thinking that shit is gonna have you lit in America? You fucking retards. If you live in America, you should be digging deep. These crackers is digging for oil. They're hitting motherfucking oil. They're out here fracking, nigga. They're pulling up all kind of shit that's buried. What the fuck are you digging for? Boogers? What are you digging for? You digging in, you niggas is out here with no license on a Hershey highway digging for some ass. That's what you digging for. You know what I'm talking about? Niggas is not digging anything. You're not even digging the planet. You're not a diggable planet type of people either. So these crackers is out here, they digging. They digging for gold. They digging for diamonds. They went digging for silver. Now they out here digging for fucking quartz. They digging for they digging for motherfucking citrine. They digging for amethyst. They digging for tourmaline. They digging for every fucking thing. They digging for motherfucking petroleum. They digging for goddamn nitro. They digging for the coltan. They digging for boltan. God damn it, yo. What the fuck are you digging for? Because like Dr. Phil Valentine said, the earth hides everything that's beautiful. Everything that's worth something on this planet is hidden. Niggas are scared of the dark. Niggas are scared of the dark. They only digging themselves. That's right. The only thing niggas is digging is themselves. But they only digging themselves a motherfucking grave too. In a lot of situations, I'm not gonna paint the majority with that brush, but a lot of niggas be digging themselves into a grave. Cause you were sent here to do something more than just dig yourself or dig out some motherfucking nappy dugout all the time. You know what I mean? Even though primal, what? Let's say it together, class. Primal instincts. I didn't make this up. This is not a fucking theory, my friends. The primal instinct. I don't care if you a Lutheran, you a fucking Shiite looking at me. You could be wrapped in the Torah right now. You could be in a fucking. You could be in a Torah roadie, nigga. You could be wrapped up in Torah blankets. You could be from Egypt. Nigga, you could be listening to this shit in the pyramid right now, standing on your motherfucking head. You know, it doesn't matter. Everybody has the same instincts. It's all across the border, sex and survival. So people are gonna screw. You know what I'm talking about? They're gonna poke. Whatever you want to call it, they're gonna mate. People are gonna have what are known as mating calls. So yeah, the dots are gonna have orange hair because they trying to procreate and get some motherfucking gods on this earth. And a lot of them have the motherfucking hips to give birth to niggas that have those goddamn long heads, the alien brains. You know what I'm talking about? So they gonna wear them goddamn colors, nigga. Them yoga pants is bright neon right now. Them shits is calling real niggas attention. And Little Nas and X and all of them, they just on a motherfucking pony riding by and on donkeys and whatnot, going to look for some ass, and they don't even see that shit jiggling. How about that? How about that? The fucking sneakers are neon. The yoga pants is neon. The Louis bag is neon. The nails is neon. The wig is neon. God damn it. That's a mating call. That's the universe talking. I'm not going to blame it on Fashion Nova. Nigga, that's the universe talking. You know what I'm saying? They try to have some sacred sex. You know? But it's up to the brothers. You gotta take two to tango. You can't have, how could you give a goddess what she really needs if you don't got it? Yeah, them torsion fields. How you gonna give it if you don't got it? So you gotta get your shit together. No, nigga, they did more than hit the stage together. Nas and Little Nas got a video out right now. How about that? Nasty Nas, Nasir Jones has a video out with Little Nas. And I'm not saying boycott him because he's a Chi-Chi man. I'm saying, nigga, that nigga's, he don't spit bars. I don't care if he broke records. You Nas, Escobar. You Nas Escobar. Fuck happened to you, bro? Where are you? Who? Talk to me. I know that Khalees shit didn't work out, but bro, man, how the fuck is Rock Nation? How is Jay-Z chilling in Mauve having a brunch on some Black Mafia shit, and he on his semi-woke shit? He did a joke for 10 million, 100 million, and he, and at least, even if he's putting on a woke mask, what the fuck, nigga? You supposed to be the face, not a, you was woke in 91. So what you supposed to be, you know, what mask are you wearing right now? You doing videos with Lil Nas X, bro. So that's what I'm saying this. The contracted Negro is the new slave. And I'm not being facetious to anybody that's out there contracted. Please don't ever think that I'm shooting at you saying that you're a slave, because we're all slaves. You know what I mean? I'm you know, don't take it personal. But there's levels to slavery right now. And what locks it in, my friends, and I'm not, you know, this is not my opinion, this is just from the research, is the paper. It's the contract. It's the contract. They own Oprah. You know, they own Gail. You could give it up. You don't have the outrage when they use them as tools to get the outrage, because keep this in mind. Every time one of our icons die, because like somebody mentioned earlier, we're dealing with archons. Shout out to Brother Panic. Brother Panic has a video about the archons that I suggest you go and look at. It's about 5 hours. He's talking about the Boule, the archons. And the archons dealing with the Gnostics and whatnot. And the archons being the ones who eat energy. You know what I'm saying? The archons being, you know, a secret society of, you know, melanated people. Nowadays, we call them the Boule. Nowadays, you know, Clarence, that nigga Clarence, the Black Godfather, right? Clarence Avant is his name. Yeah, Super Archon. Bill Cosby, Super Archon. You know, these are the black people who don't consider themselves to be niggas. They won't just be in the house. They would be in the attic of the house. You know what I mean? Teaching the lessons to the quote unquote planters. The slave masters were not intelligent. The slave masters, I don't call them slave masters. They're called planters. So planters live on plantations. You don't have to utilize the term slave master. If they're making you say white supremacy and slave master, then they're doing something with word magic to you. These are planters and traders. You know what I mean? They were basically dealing with crops. You know, they had big estates on farms and whatnot. So don't get caught up in this. Niggas is not no master of anything. Because a lot of them niggas wasn't master of nothing. They died young. You know, they couldn't do anything physical but beat on a person and do a bunch of rapey things and commit vile acts of murder. Because always know this and don't be confused. You think serial murderers came out of nowhere in America, where this doesn't exist, this phenomenon doesn't exist anywhere else? Do you think the phenomenon of the serial murder is an isolated phenomenon, or serial murderers were not active, they were not more active? They just started counting those numbers. Do you think they were not more active? Many, many years ago, when our people were more vulnerable. When you could kill, when they had those laws where you could kill a slave. When they had those laws where you could turn somebody who was free into a slave. Do you think that that came out of the reason why the serial murderers take place now, and there's so many serial murderers in the same areas where there were Indian massacres, plantations, massacres of slaves and army soldiers throughout the century? These are the same geographical areas. Some of these are the kinfolk. Some of these are the offspring. Some of these people have, you know, incorporated the spirits, the demonic spirits of those areas and whatnot. And, you know, they're repeating that type. And theoretically through karma, some people have reincarnated and lived out those, you know, curses and whatnot. You might have somebody that got killed by Ted Bundy, but in another lifetime, they were out there killing Indian women and whatnot. And when you go into Canada, the serial murders of the Indian women and the serial murders of the quote unquote indigenous native Indian women on the reservations up there in Canada is off the Richter scale, because this is what they were doing in Indian land, and this is what they were doing along the plantations, and this is what they were doing also to each other. Because remember, they were committing atrocities against each other as well when they were here. And I'm not necessarily talking about the Spanish fighting the English and fighting the French. I'm talking about the people within their own companies. Yeah, Virginia Company and whatnot. That's why you have like that island. What was that? Rome was the first thing that they try to set up, and then the inhabitants died off and whatnot. And they have all of these stories of cannibalism, and you have all of these stories of village, you know, little settlements and whatnot failing and whatnot, and people eating each other. These are the same people that we dealing with. So that whole shit, the Pledge of Allegiance, my nigga, all of that, that's all a spell. That's all word magic. You sit your ass down. You sit your ass down. Are you serious? You don't stand for that. You know what that shit stands for? That's all a spell, bro. That is a wicked spell. We have to, the Renoki. We have to approach these lies with some truth. Let me get some truth together right now. Let me pull some things up because I wanna get into this lesson tonight. Show you some things, read you some things so we could learn something and then move on, because I got work to do, you know. I'm gonna keep these shows to a minimum, you know. Shit'll change when the reciprocation changes. But we're gonna put in this work, you know. But you know, yeah. All right. Shout out to the young God. The Autochons of America. The young God out of Dallas, I believe. All right, let me share my screen. Okay. Can you see that? Let me know if you can see that picture, y'all. Yay or nay? Let me know if you can see that picture. Okay. So here we have a picture of our good brother. You know our good brother? This is our good brother, King Cudi. King Cudi has a very strong influence on youth culture, okay? He has a very strong influence on rager culture, youth culture, black and white in all colors. So he found out that he belongs to an indigenous tribe. I don't want anybody to get mad at him and call him a sellout. Just stick with me to the end of the night. So once I'm finished this information, I'm just warming up. Let me, you know, before you get judgmental and think that he's a traitor because he don't want to go back to Ghana with you this year, just let me just, you know, let me unpack, please. Okay. The United States and the California Indian catastrophe, right? I need y'all to take notes, and I need y'all to do the motherfucking research. I'm giving you pearls right now. There was a form of money in America that was known as pearls, black pearls and white pearls, which can also be utilized as means of exchange to this day. So I'm not pitching pearls. I'm handing you some pearls and I'm giving you some food to eat. So do yourself a favor, take these ingredients into the kitchen and you start cooking, because you're going to go down a rabbit hole. You know, unlike antebellum slave owners in the southern states, who in the 1850s often paid hundreds of dollars for an African American slave, and sometimes more than 1,500. Remember, 1,500 in the 1850s is akin to, like, I think it's akin to about, I don't know the exact conversion. I don't want to say this the wrong conversion. I'm going to give you the right conversion. Californians typically spent between $35 and $200 to acquire de facto ownership of an Indian. All right. Okay, 30,000, and someone is saying 50,000. So to buy an African, a premium, right? An African, there is such a thing as an African American. I'm gonna show you in a minute. Like I said, let me just teach my brothers. I know y'all wild smart, but let's just go. Let's just sit in class and we'll take questions at the end. So $1,500 is equivalent to 30 racks. So you're basically buying a whip. But in California, where all things are cheap, even to this day, think drugs, think weight, because they're selling human beings like they're selling weight. They're selling human beings like they're selling weight. Think drugs, think weight. So you go to California before all of this weed shit got legal. You go to California and you get the pounds for $300. And the pounds sell for how much in every other state? 5 racks, if you know, to the and downward. 23. Jordan niggas was selling it for the Jordan. They was selling it for the Scotty. So the same thing applies with human bodies. It's called human cargo, right? So when they go into California, this is even during this gold rush, so they have more money to spend, and they're selling human beings for $35 to $200 versus the premium African. That if this were horses, that's the thoroughbred. The Indian in the West is not considered to be the thoroughbred, because the Indian in the West, you could not, there was a difference of how you could break each one in. You could not break the Indian in the way that you could break the African in, because the Indian was at home. The African was not. That made a big difference. But let's continue. Supply and demand, in combination with rising tobacco and cotton prices, dictated this radical price difference. By the 1840s, the South's supply of African slaves came almost exclusively from biological reproduction. Have I not been teaching about this? By the 1840s, the South's supply of African American slaves came almost exclusively from biological reproduction. The federal government's 1808 ban on the transatlantic slave trade to the United States limited new supply to births and a very small illegal international slave trade. Supply grew more slowly than demand, and in combination with rising demand for cotton and tobacco, pushed African American slave prices dramatically upward in the 1840s and 50s. Think drugs, think kilos, not weed. Think kilos, not weed. Think bricks of horse and King Herod. Think motherfucking Ghost St. Patrick. Think kilos, not weed. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with price and fluctuations on the motherfucking pack. And you were the pack. The little girls were the pack. The little boys were the pack. And they made their motherfucking money and they bones and they built their goddamn government off of selling packs to each other. How about it? And those packs could work. And those packs built up this goddamn nation. And they're telling you that you lazy and you can't ask for nothing from them. And they say, fuck out of here. And they got their own people saying, fuck out of here. Don't ask us for anything. But let me continue. Biological reproduction. Capital gain is what they called it. Capital gain. Write all of this down. Don't take my word for gospel. Do your own research. But when you get it right, get back at me. Supply grew more slowly than demand. And in combination with rising demand for cotton and tobacco, it pushed the African American slaves dramatically upward in the 1840s and 50s. By contrast, the supply of potential de facto California Indian slaves remained relatively elastic. There were still tens of thousands of California Indians. Look, there were still tens of thousands of California Indians, not just Indians, California Indians. They're there now. And acquisition costs were low. Anglo-Californians, Californios, and Europeans could purchase California Indians from ranchers who already held them as unfree laborers or from slave raiders. So unfree laborers is almost akin to non-documented Mexicans who are considered Californians working on ranches in the motherfucking West. I seen them in Florida, right there in Homestead, and right across the street was a goddamn prison and whatnot. And they had a goddamn ranch. The shit was, it was a strawberry patch. It went as far as the eye can see. And they had the motherfucking Mexicans in a goddamn cul-de-sac, all illegals. And they was working, from the ranch, and they was working the goddamn field. Like they have these indentured servants, or what they would call unfree laborers, or from slave raids. So remember, we talked about the slave raids before. The slave raids is almost akin to how dudes will go, like the stick-up kids, not really, but in a sense, like if there's a robber crew, the jack boys and whatnot, and they go out and they go and tie a nigga up, or they go to get the bricks and whatnot. They're going to go on a raid. They might even kidnap some people. Then you have things like in Africa where they go, when they run down on, on a village and whatnot, Boko Haram. They're going on a raid. They're pillaging and whatnot. When you go into the stories of the Vikings, these are slave raids. These are raiders. The raiders is a football team, but the raiders were the people who were running to the villages and whatnot. They not snatching up no goddamn women. They snatching little girls and little boys to basically sell them, or to eat them, or to rape them, or to molest them, or to basically enslave them and have them as boy toys and fancy girls. This is what they did. Or they would sell them to Europe because Europe wanted these little children in their motherfucking soup, on some Hansel and Gretel bat soup type of shit. You can imagine what it is that they were doing to these children. That's why there were so many bones, little bones, found under the Vatican. How about it? They just opened up a tomb recently. To this day. That's where you get the whole adrenochrome thing, where they're drinking the adrenochrome, and you have all of the high rates of children missing right now because Nigga, it's been going on. How do you think they live is able to live? It's been going on. So the adrenochrome is the adrenaline that they're able to extract. It's a sought after compound that you can that you basically create, and by scaring a child, and they secrete the adrenochrome. And it's said to be an elixir, like a magical elixir for these quote unquote bloodsuckers. All right. Native American. The common perception that Indians never formed a substantial portion of North America's total slave population has, in part, its roots in the routine reclassification of Indians as blacks that began shortly after the British moved toward the establishment of a chattel model of slavery. This reclassification systematically wrote Native Americans out of the official records. Remember, paper gangsters. Paper gangsters. This is a paper war that you're going up against. These are paper tigers. You have been removed with the stroke of a pen. As new racial classifications became more prominent in the systematic management of the colonial populations, non-white people slowly became people of color and by default became associated with the growing black population. The result of the correspondence between these two racialized terms was the conflation of racial classification with geographic provenance that rendered contemporaneous the noun black. Once again, go follow the brother's page. He has good information, as you can see. All right. So the most common last names for American Indians and Alaskan Natives in the U.S., right? As you can see, last name Smith, 20,000, right? These were number of occurrences among people self-identifying as American Indian and Alaskan American, right? What year was this? Data derived from the census. So black people with the name Smith, right? How many people on the reservations are named Smith? What about Johnson? Because there's a whole bunch of Negroes coming out the deep South with Johnson. Yes, Emmett Smith. There's a whole bunch of people, Todd Smith. There's a whole bunch of people in big cities, and all of those big cities were part of the migration. And who fed the migration? All of the Indian lands of Alabama, all of the Indian lands of Georgia, because Andrew Jackson, with the Indian removal, and all of these lands were being pillaged by these terrorists who were running people off of prime land, real estate, so they could take the land to build the cities and the towns and the states that you see today, that you're paying taxes today, that you're getting locked up in today, that you're dying over blocks that got their names on it today, and all kind of shit. You got Williams, Brown, Wilson. I'm a fucking Thomas. Thomas, Miller, White, Jackson, Jones, Yazzie, Locklear, Johnson, and Smith. Come on, man. Do you see this? Can you screenshot this? Can you niggas put this in your fucking notes? White, Jackson, Miller, Thomas, Thompson, Wilson, Davis, Brown, Williams, Jones, Johnson, Smith. It sounds like a fucking roll call for a barbecue, nigga. That sounds like roll call in the motherfucking Supermax, nigga. That's what it sounds like when they get you down for the count. It sounds like roll call in the Supermax. Before you go to the yard or some shit. That sounds like the names they call out when it's time to go to court, when you in a dungeon somewhere. in one of these courthouses. Yeah, the shit sound like a football game too. And where did the football players come from? Texas, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, Georgia. These are the same black men who were running. These are the same motherfucking wide receivers who was throwing arrows at these, the same quarterbacks. They were shooting arrows at these niggas. I'm going to read you something about how deadly these niggas were with their bows and arrows. They were bodying them even with their guns. These were the same dudes that were jumping over conquistadors with the rock. They playing football now. My dude, Lamar Jackson types. Out of where? Where's he out of? BLACKAMOOR, right? These are the same people. The same dudes running with the pigskin. The same ones. Beast Mode out of Oakland. He's the Olmec. Look at his phenotype. He's an Olmec. He looks like he's a mound builder. So these same people, bro, and they're in the big cities now because of the migration. But everybody migrated from these places that I'm about to tell you that we're going to read about what these places were. That's why I was saying, without being facetious, that the closest institution that mimics slavery is the NFL. Hands down, bar none. There's no way around that. They did not have to change a lot, bro. They did not have to change the locks. They just changed the curtains. The combine is the closest thing to the auction block that you will see in any organized sports, any entertainment industry, anything dealing with anything. The fact that these niggas are still called owners, the fact that they trade these people back and forth to make billions off of them, the fact that they're able to extract free labor, sweat equity off of these fucking when they were in high school and they eating off of them. That's how they ate off the slave. They didn't have to pay him a coin. But when he got a little bit older, they would put some coins in that nigga pocket because he was a hot rocket at that point. He could knock their top off and he could motherfucking, he could do the digital dash on them. 100 amazing facts about the Negro. You have to read this book. You have to get J.A. Rogers. This is Black History Month. If I had it to sell it to you, I would have it for you right now. Make sure you get this book off of Amazon, or make sure you hit the brother up right here. He has PDFs for you. But if he sends you a PDF, tell him that I sent you and send him, take care of him. Because it's not for free, but you're going to get a priceless amount of information. Just, take care of him. Yeah, the police were the slave catchers. Yeah, the police were the slave catchers. The slave catchers turned into the police. That's a super fact. Nothing has changed. The police force is, the slave catchers are now the police. The plantation is now the NFL. The plantation is now corporate America. And once again, I have to always I have to always be respectful for my audience, because amongst my patrons and amongst my listening audience and amongst the people who stop me in the street who are well-dressed and belong to corporate America, I'm not talking about you per se. I'm not even saying that you're a slave in a way, but I'm definitely saying that corporate America, because the fact that capitalism is exclusively grown from slavery, not coffee beans, not rice, not tobacco, none of that. It is slavery, hands down, bar none. The America that you know today, there was not America, it was colonies. It was not even states. These were territories and colonies. The motherfucking come up the same way that you think cocaine is for Colombia, Virginia, and these other places, Charlestown, and other places that began to pop up in the South and whatnot. Slavery, plantations, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, slavery, my nigga. And the motherfucking mission of the church and the crown But slavery, bro, that's what built this thing. So, I mean, I'm going to show you on Sunday if you show up. If you don't show up, you don't find out. And guess what? That's fine on me. I should have 500 people there on Sunday because I spoke to about 500,000 of y'all already. So I'm cool with just bringing 1% or whatever percentage that is. I'm cool with turning over the 1% because I do, you know, they say, unfortunately, in the computer world, nigga, that's success. In the digital world, just converting 1% is a success. It's 627. If 6 people buy a ticket to go to this show, they consider that, you know what, Rag? You did good with your people. Because 620 some odd people are not going to do anything. They're not going to they're not going to push no button. They're not going to basically convert. They're not going to reciprocate. Only 1%. So for the sale of white people as Negro slaves, right? I told you the other day that they call white folks the Negroes. That they call white folks Negroes. It's not this is not speculation. This is not what we think. This is the information that your preacher has sworn an oath not to tell you. This is the information that your teachers has sworn an oath not to tell you. Yeah, they'll get the modern day version of a scalping. Back in the days, you was just scalping niggas off the rip. But the modern day version of a scalping is sort of what they're gonna do to what they was doing to Gayle King earlier today. They was scalping that hair hat right up off of her motherfucking head. You know? Fuck out of here. Let's go some more. For the sale of white people as Negro slaves, sees article from Cincinnati philanthropist, reprinted in Colored Americans, June 20, 1840, where a white woman was sold as a Negro and where her 10 children by 2 of her white masters were also sold as Negroes. For the seduction and sale of other whites, as Negroes, see Anglo-African Magazine, Volume 1, page 336, 1859. Richard Hildreth, American historian, says, just catch a stray Irish or German girl and sell her, a thing sometimes done. A White Slave, page 252, 5th edition. McCormick says, all persons who were captured in Europe by kidnappers and sent to America was sold by the captain to the highest bidder without indenture. Johns Hopkins University Studies in History and Political Science, numbers 3 and 4. This meant they could be held as slaves for life like the Negroes. For the story of Sally Muller, German woman held as a Negro, see Slavery Pamphlet, volume 23, number 15, New York Public Library. So the Civil War to free the slaves and free the Negroes that Lincoln was doing, he was freeing white folk. And those white folk, you know what I'm talking about? Those white folk, right, were basically those white folk turned around, and those were the ones who became the police force. Those were the ones that became the quote unquote, policy officers, to look over you. They became your overseers, but they helped the European in the war get his numbers up, get his savagery up. As a result of them helping out, they then opened up the motherfucking borders and they bring them in on some Ellis Island type shit, and they had their descendants come and populate America after they helped them take over, because this was always about land grabbing, always about the land grab, you know, because they did not necessarily find the quote unquote money in the land. Forget that all leading geologists now agree in the opinion that America is the oldest known continent on the face of the planet, that the fossil remains of human beings found in various parts of it, far distant from each other, prove that man lived here in times immemorial, and that we have not the slightest ray of light to illuminate the darkness that surrounds the origin of these primeval men. Furthermore, it is now admitted by the generality of scientists that man, far from descending from a single pair located in a particular portion of the Earth's surface, has appeared on every part of it where the biological conditions have been propitious to his development. Give me 1 second. Hold on, give me 1 minute, yo. Thank you, everybody that sent the Cash App. I was talking. I didn't get a chance to thank everyone. I want to say thank you. I said, you know, all of that, the support means a lot. You know, the support means a lot. You know, so salute to everyone for that. Okay. Check this out while we wait for it. Understand that America is attempting to checkmate China because the grand prize is Africa. The fight over Africa has officially begun. And you know, I don't know what to say. At the end of the day, salute to everybody who's been going over there and getting it, you know, getting it popping, because, you know, you definitely have a good vision. Sure. Hands down, Africa is ground zero. You know. This computer's slow as hell, pardon me, y'all. Thank you for that Cash App. I appreciate you. Yo, you know when the best time is to hear a Cash App? When I'm in the crib, sometimes meditating at night, like late at night when it's wild quiet, when you can hear a cricket and you hear the motherfucking coins drop. Yeah, that's a good feeling right there. Or maybe I might be getting massaged. You know what I mean? If you know what I'm talking about. Maybe I might be getting my brains massaged. And then the motherfucking coins drop. I say hallelujah. Hallelujah. All right, so let's build on this. This is some notes right here from a book. I'll give you the title of the book in a minute. I don't have it in front of me. but this is for the lecture that I'm going to be doing. These are some notes, so let's just chop up a little something, something. Hold on. So it starts right here. All right, so the Mississippian culture area largely corresponds with the South, extending from Oklahoma east into southern Illinois, south to the Gulf of Mexico, north to the Ohio River Valley, and east to the Atlantic Ocean. I want somebody to take that clip that I just said right there, draw out that exact map that I just said, and then align it with the roll call from earlier today to basically show and prove beyond a reasonable doubt that we're not tripping, that the majority of the people who are here tonight in the chat, right, derive and come from that exact place. Okay, these exact regions that I just named and whatnot. You know, the Mississippian culture area. So Mississippian culture area is not just Mississippi. When we're talking about it in these ancient terms. Are y'all all right? Hold on. Damn, you can't even see it. My bad. Wait, can you see it? Was you able to see the screen? Was you able to see the paper that I was reading, y'all? Or could you just hear it? Let me know. Because I want y'all to see the shit. I want y'all to be able to. Oh, you saw it? Okay. Let me go back to it. By the 16th century, it had constricted from the west and north. Arkansas. Hold on. See if we fix this. Okay, here we go. Arkansas became a borderline between the West and the South as Western hunters pushed Mississippians eastward. So the Western hunters, these are the 49ers, these are cowboys, these are the slave patrol, these are murderers. These are what Billy the Kid and all of them later on, these quote unquote outlaws and whatnot, they derive from these gangs of killers and basically Western hunters, you know, who were killing, murdering, pillaging, raping, not just the land, but the people as well. Bloodthirsty, these were the ex-slaves that were in chains that basically got their freedom, you know, and were running wild. right, let's read through this thing. Okay. Arkansas became a borderland between the West and the South as Western hunters pushed Mississippians eastward, and the Ohio River country was no longer part of the region, although the Ohio fed into the Mississippi as Algonquins and Iroquois took over the area. The South remained connected to the North and the lands of the Algonquins and the Iroquois through a corridor along the east side of the Appalachians, leading to trade, warfare, and migration, particularly of Tuscarora moving south into North Carolina, and later by Westo, settling on the Savannah River. Along the corridor lay Virginia, a border region outside the South but connected to it. At the time of first contact with Europeans, Virginia's Aborigines, mostly of the Powhatan chiefdom, were culturally halfway between the Southern Indians and the Northern Algonquins. On the much north-south corridor, Virginia received cultural transmissions from both directions, and unlike the Iroquois in the South, Powhatans rarely ventured southward or northward. Shut off by the Appalachians and unconnected to the South's river system, Virginia and the Mississippian and colonial eras had little impact on the region beyond the Jamestown colony's traders, who generally did not go farther than the Cherokee in the Southern Appalachians. Let me just go back a little so we could try and unpack what St. Thea said. So they're giving you the perimeters and whatnot, that certain tribes were, landlocked, or the certain tribes that basically locked down their area, the same way that people lock down their area, the same way people from the DMV stay in the DMV, even though some venture forth into different lands and whatnot. For the majority of the people in their corridor, they stay within their corridor, and they're not affected by things that are happening in Delaware or shit that's going on in New York in particular, even though they may have contact and they trade with them. Their culture, or their basically, their local culture is confined to their local culture. They'll get influenced by other cultures, but they have their own unique culture, and they receive cultural transmissions from both directions. Like Virginia got cultural transmissions from New York when it came to hip hop, Teddy Riley and other things like that. The golden era, the boom bap that inspired Timbaland, Missy, the Neptunes, but they also got cultural transmissions coming from Atlanta, coming from the South, coming from the West Coast. So they were picking up the cultural transmissions for both ways by being right there in Virginia. That's an example of what that means. And they did not venture, Virginia, and the colonists, the white folk that y'all talk about, these white people, the traders, they did not go farther than the Cherokee and the Southern Appalachians, not until the region-wide transformation brought about by the creation of the United States and later transportation developments was Virginia brought into the South. So Virginia was not the South. It was not considered the South, although it was attached to the South and it was a corridor for getting to the South. Virginia was not seen as the South. The development of the United States and things like that changed it. It is only by reading history backward and faultily that the Virginia area appears to be part of the South in the prehistoric and colonial periods. It is ordinarily assumed that Virginia has always been part of the South and the most important part of that region, for it was the first English colony to develop a plantation society based on slave labor, and the colonies that formed south of it ostensibly imitated Virginia by doing the same. But slavery and plantations were ambiguous in the European colonial world. Moreover, there was little migration by Virginians to the South, by which they can carry their ideas and institutions until a much later period. Certainly, South Carolina had far more in common with Barbados than it did with Virginia. Carolina received European settlers, African slaves, trade goods, and its model for plantation agriculture from the West Indies. Shout out to my Ados. Likewise, St. Augustine's connections with Cuba and Louisiana's to the French Sugar Islands played influential roles in their development. Both had little to no contact with Virginia, whose main axis of trade and cultural exchange was with Europe, not America. Okay, we told you that when we went to the United Kingdoms, when we went to Liverpool. You know what I'm talking about? What the hell? When we went to the United Kingdom and the Liverpool, and we went to the Parliament. You remember that? When we went to Parliament? Y'all all right? Y'all learning? Y'all want more? We were like, look, I don't think people are understanding the connection between the two. Like going there, you understand why that's mother country. You get it. You get it. It's not hard to see. You pick up why that's mama country. All right, let's get back in it. Can y'all see? Y'all can see the screen? Let me know. Y'all can see the screen? Well, I'm bugging. I got my phone right here. Oh, but you can't see the screen. Oh, there we go. My bad. Okay. So Cuba and Louisiana have a heavy influence, right, to St. Augustine. But they don't have no connection to Virginia like that, right? These are isolated colonies doing isolated things at this point. It gets different later on down the line, but at this point, it's the Chesapeake, Virginia thing, and then you got Charlestown, which is the Carolinas, and they're plugged into the West Indies, and they're plugged into, quote unquote, they got connections with Cuba and Louisiana and Barbados. If the South is defined as an area of interrelationships where affairs in any one corner of the region could dramatically affect the region, then Virginia clearly lay outside the colonial South. Virginia may be excluded from the pre-19th century South, but not just as a point of nomenclature, but also to emphasize the lack of connectedness and influence of the Old Dominion on the region. Keep that in mind, the Old Dominion, that plays a part. As I show, Spanish Florida, French Louisiana, British Carolina, and the Indian peoples from the lower Mississippi Valley to the Atlantic and north of the Southern Appalachians lived lives that were intimately connected. Together, they made up a specific region, their fate enmeshed by the area they inhabited. Interactions between Creek and Choctaw, for instance, had direct bearing on every other group of people from the Cherokee and the Southern Appalachians to the Appalachee in Florida, from the small Gulf Coast groups to the Chickasaw and peoples of the central Mississippi Valley. Virginia was almost unaffected by this relationship and also had minimal impact on any other places of the region, save for the Cherokee and some of the Piedmont Indians with whom they traded. Okay, so can we please dispel this fucking spell that these Europeans were controlling this whole shit the minute they touched down? These miraculous fucking Avengers took over. That's how, if I let you niggas tell it, that's how you would tell it. Spain had much greater impact on the South than Virginia through its explorers and the establishment of permanent settlements in Florida. That's why Florida is so important. That's where all of those killings and those shootings, that's where Zimmerman, Trayvon took place. That's where Mar-a-Lago is. Florida is of utmost importance because of the historical Spaniard connection to the crown and European, the land of flowers. So Spanish exploration from the South Atlantic to the Mississippi Valley kindled European interest in the South while introducing Native Americans in Spanish exploration of the region mid-16th century and the steady influx of Europeans late 17th century might have had a long-term positive impact on Americans living distant from the Atlantic coast. The Mississippi Valley peoples had intensive contacts with Sotos and Entrada in the 1540s, before Europeans again entered the region. This allowed the Mississippi Valley peoples time to recover their numbers from any adverse reactions to newly introduced European microbes. Remember, I said we're on an animal killer planet where you could go into a region and start breathing. And when people are introduced to pathogens, when they're introduced to microbes, and they have to develop resistance to these pathogens, these pathogens are trying to kill them, and they actually wiped out whole countries, damn near towns and cities and whatnot. They don't even gotta touch them. What's fucking with that? They got the coronavirus, nigga. They was hopping off of the ships with the coronavirus, smallpox, measles, chickenpox, shingles, herpes simplex, all of these things, gonorrhea, syphilis. They was exposing the natives to all of that. But they said that the natives built up a resistance system because when they came into contact with the quote-unquote Spaniards, that was in the 1500s. And as you can see, the Europeans from the British side, they came 100 some odd years later. So they had time to build up resistance. They had time to replenish their numbers that were being pillaged and reduced by the conquistadors who were wiping them out by the millions almost. I won't say the millions, but a lot of them were dying. Okay, let me continue. This contrasted with the situation in Florida, where there was a persistent influx of Spanish explorers, shipwrecked sailors, and then colonists from the 1520s onward. Florida's indigenous population had little time to adapt to the pathogenic onslaught and suffered more dearly than did native people elsewhere in the South. Archaeologists and historians tend to overemphasize the impact of the Spanish on the Native American peoples of the South outside of Florida and the South Atlantic coast, whatever impact disease had, carried by Spaniards and their animals and trade goods. Native populations away from Florida recovered quickly enough that the new political units could defend themselves ably against the Europeans. During the 17th century, the chiefdoms, listen to this, the chiefdoms along the Atlantic seaboard and west to the Mississippi evolved into new political forms, mostly as confederacies, an alliance of towns whose connections were voluntary. So when you talk to me about, oh, what about if we build a town, who's going to protect it? You are going to have to form a confederacy, an alliance of towns whose connections were voluntary. These towns and confederacies were not as hierarchical or as organized as in the chiefdoms of the pre-contact period, but that made them no less effective for meeting the changing circumstances of Southern life. If anything, these new decentralized confederacies of disparate towns and people were much more superior to the rigid chiefdoms in their political flexibilities. So the chiefdoms, which were built around the mound civilization cultures, the chiefdoms, which were built around traditional indigenous, basically sacred things, they turned into towns. But these towns were a conglomerate of different tribes who basically came into these towns to exist, to be a unit, like how they built up Black Wall Street, like how you could build up any single town. When you bring people to come together, you might bring the nation together. You might bring the Moors together. You might bring the Hebrew Israelites together. You might bring some other brothers from the Nubians together. You form a town. You form a confederacy. Y'all have a common interest and a common goal. You basically, you're flexible, but you're able to put forth new laws. You could legalize polygamy and other things like that. You could take away the mandatory vaccines. You become your own governing body. You govern your mental. You're a confederacy. You have a board. You have people voting. You have constitutions. Then you have feet. You have money. You have an exchange. You barter. You trade. You have a gross domestic product. Your children become your gross domestic products and their intellectual property, their patents, their genius, their inventions, the technology. This is how this thing is done. This is Facts 2020. This is the skeleton of what I built. Facts 2020 is a confederacy of creators, of creatives, of intellects, of visionaries, of people who are industrious. Southern Indians did not devolve. Southern Indians, when they say Southern Indians, that's equivalent to saying niggas down south. Southern Indians is equivalent to saying the dirty South. Southern Indians is equivalent to saying my cousin and them, my first cousin and them, Nan and them. You know what I mean? Go-go and them. They down south. The Copper Nation. Southern Indians did not devolve into inferior politics or polities. They evolved into societies that better suited their new world. The transformation from chiefdom to confederacy began with the splintering of the chiefdom into towns. These towns then affiliated to resist more powerful organized forces, both European and Indian, that entered the region. As they confederated, however, the towns did not create new centralized politics, but retained their independence. Their allegiance was predicated on defense, though it could be employed for aggression against others. So what they're saying is, imagine if the Bloods put all of their sets together and basically, imagine if they just put their money together and bought a whole town or something. And they all come together. This is, you know what I mean? This is Bloodville. You know what I'm talking about? This is, you know what I'm saying? This is Damouville. This is Damu Heights. and they all come together. Let's say that the different sections of the Panthers come together, and they basically was like, you know what? We're going to go on landforsale.com or one of those landwatch.com, right? And we're going to buy us some land. Let me show you. Let's see if Landwatch is still here. We're going to go to landwatch.com. We're going to go buy us some land, right? Y'all all right? Come on, Landwatch. And then we're going to go ahead and buy some land. We're going to build this land out. We're going to survey the land. We're going to build on the land. We're going to till the soil. And then we're going to have defense because we're gun owners and we with the shits, right? And we with the shits, right? Look, this is for sale. So you know I'm not wilding. Auction, hunting land, waterfronts. This is land for sale, right? You want your acres? You got 3,600 acres. You want 4 acres? You want 83? You want 60 acres? How many acres you want? Florida, 101,000 properties for sale. Let's go to Florida. Because niggas don't, this is the shit that we could be talking about every other day. We could be putting our brilliant minds, our intellectual property, our intellectual minds together, our masterminds together. And we could actually do something that our ancestors actually did. Because they was buying motherfucking land. They wasn't sitting around playing no goddamn games and out here pump faking and stroking people's egos all day. They was about that life. 15 acres for 125 racks. Did they just not throw $2 million in the fucking stripper bowl? The strippers could have went and bought themselves 137,000 acres. What, 1,387 acres and made motherfucking stripper heights. You know what I'm talking about? They can make Dots Landing. They're throwing this money in the club, bro. 332 acres. You know, they built Vegas in a desert, bro. So niggas should be embarrassed when they start coming up with excuses about why they can't get busy in this motherfucker. You know what I mean? How Africa became the $1 billion Brexit winner. Okay? We're going to cover this in a lecture, not tonight. How Africa became the $1 billion Brexit winner. The whole Brexit thing is built on them going into Africa. Okay? Remember I said that. So this is what these confederacies were. These confederacies, you know, the Indians they were about that life. The Indians and the confederacies were warriors. They were strong. They were powerful. The Europeans were very afraid of them, extremely afraid of them. They did not step on their toes. Okay? They had other Indians to protect them, who they were basically buying protection from. They were buying their protection by giving them goods and trading with them and keeping them happy. Because if they did not keep the Indians happy, the Indians and the surrounding confederacies could have easily crushed them. If you don't believe me, nigga, just watch. The egalitarian social structure and independence of towns gave individuals and groups more room for adjusting to the people's ideas and goods that entered and transformed the region in the late 17th century and afterward. The challenges presented were enormous, and the less authoritarian societies of post-contact period adapted quickly. Fluidity of opinion and egalitarian bands helped groups evade disasters that a stubborn elite bound by ties to place ideologically and political forms might not have been able to avoid. Southern Indians did not consciously decide to form these new political units. The Choctaw, Cherokee, Creek, and Catawba Confederates were formed over time as old traditions blended with new needs and circumstances. Spain did play a role in the changes. Although Spain's settlement was confined largely to the Florida Peninsula and along the Atlantic coast into Georgia, the raids of Spanish allied Indians into Alabama helped unite in defense peoples who evolved into the Creek Confederacy. Shout out to my Alabama niggas. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Even though their Spanish influence in sparking the creation of new political organizations might not have been paramount. After the initial forays of Spanish explorers, Spain's influence did not reach much further into the south than Florida, where it was of mammoth proportions. The Spanish sought to repeat successes in Mexico and Peru and La Florida to find precious metals, right, and precious stones, and to convert heathens. Jesus. The search for exotic foods, some motherfucking soursop, dragon fruit, and perhaps to the Orient also intrigued Spaniards. Yet the first Spanish attempts were failures of great magnitude. Of the Panfilo de Narvaez expeditions, 600 men who landed at Tampa Bay in 1528, only a handful survived. One problem met by the explorers and by subsequent Spanish forays was the impressive military power of the Indians, whose bows and arrows were more than a match for the Europeans. Alvar Nunez Cabeza de Vaca, one of the few survivors of the Navarrese fiasco, wrote of how good armor was of no avail against the Appalachians. This was owing to the power and skill with which the Indians are able to project arrows from bows as thick as the arm of 11 or 12 palms in length, which they will discharge at 200 paces with so great precision that they will miss nothing. Hold on. We getting hot in here. Oh, they skipped it. Damn. The contrast with the English entry more than a century. Okay. Hold on. You gotta give me 1 second, y'all, because I chopped this shit up. Okay, we'll start here. So it says that they captured women for their foul use and lewdness, baptized them more on account of carnal intercourse than to teach them the faith. They baptized them more on account of carnal intercourse than to teach them the faith. You know, this nigga's just trying to write some nice shit. He's trying to cover up some fuck shit with this colorful. He's trying to intellectualize the fuckery. What that sentence means is they were raping the women instead of actually teaching them the faith. Because what they were saying was, give us your daughters. We're gonna make them, if they turned into Catholics, if they converted the Indians into Catholics by the sword, as a result of them turning Catholic, the conquistadors would say, well, give me your daughter. Give me your child. You know, give a child to the faith. They might hit them with one of them funky ass passages. They'd be convincing niggas to give up their seeds and whatnot. And then they were raping these little girls. They held chiefs and principal men captive, pillaged wherever they went, and enslaved Indians to carry what they stole. The reason Rangel offered none other than greed and lechery. These were not the only factors, however, for the Spanish explorers looked on the Indians as savage heathens who deserved brutal treatment. This perspective horrified many in Spain, and the Soto Entrada in particular inspired a movement for reform de las Casas. The Spanish crown responded favorably and ordered that on future expeditions, the cross must accompany the sword. Amerindians could not be enslaved. Success was not quickly forthcoming. In 1556, Juan Pardo landed north of the Savannah River on the Sea Islands of South Carolina in hopes of creating a base from which to search for pathways and to convert Indians. Pardo failed. Tristan de Luna Arellano then led a force of 1,500 colonists to penetrate in 1559. Listen to this. But a hurricane and other impediments led to another disaster. The Spirit told me when I was reading that when they landed, that hurricane was formed by the inhabitants of that land. That hurricane was summoned. That hurricane was a defense that basically protected that land at that time. By then, however, Spanish thinking shifted to building farms and homesteads. You see Homestead, Florida, where you live by out there. Shout out to my Dade County. Right after Kendall is Homestead. So Homestead is the name of the lands that they built, you know, when they began to settle in and, you know, explore the land for its agricultural wealth. Because in Homestead, Florida, some of the farms, that's where all of they got, I think, oranges and mangoes and strawberries, all kind of stuff. Additional impetus came from the need to control the Atlantic coast. Listen, attacks from the English, French, and Dutch course in Atlantic and Caribbean waters forced the Spanish to recognize their shipments of New World precious metals to Europe. It forced them to reorganize their shipments of New World precious metals to Europe. So they were pillaging precious metals and sending them to Europe via ship. Okay, they were cleaning out the Americas. They were pillaging. They were dumping it the same way that they're dumping it. They're dumping the seas of oil. They're dumping the seas of fossil fuels. They're dumping the coltan. They're dumping the lead everywhere in Africa, where they're pulling up all of this richness, all of this wealth, all of this priceless, all of these resources out of the ground, sucking it up. Spanish ships were notified of a predetermined date to meet in Havana, from which the Royal Navy would escort them home. So they needed escorts. They needed a brink truck. They needed the big homies to hold them down. They needed shooters to surround them while they were taking all of this stolen riches back to these stinking people that that sent them here on a mission to steal and bring it home. They were out here boosting. They was in America swiping, and then they needed somebody to bring them home, because the fleet then sailed up to the Florida coast before heading across the Atlantic. Control of the Florida peninsula became crucial to the protection of Spain's American riches. As the Spanish prepared to occupy Florida, they received word that the French planned to colonize the peninsula. Admiral Gaspard de Coligny approved an expedition of mostly Huguenots led by Jean Rabot, which landed in 1562. The French immediately set about searching for precious metals, but also established naval bases from which to prey on Spanish shipping. As French carpenter Nicolas de la Chaloux reminisced of those who went, they volunteered for a variety of reasons. Listen, some spurred by an honest desire to see Florida, hoping that the trip would enrich them. Others were driven by the desire for adventure. Adventure meant raping women and pillaging. That's called adventure. Adventure means stealing, boosting. You know, when niggas go sliding, when niggas go riding, when people used to go on juxes, when people used to go to dig pockets, when people used to go on jewelry heists, when people used to go to rob banks. That's an adventure. In an adventure, piracy, when you pillage in an adventure, you get some box. You know what I mean? The prize is basically a sex doll, a woman, somebody who you could take advantage of. Some had nothing to lose. They preferred to tempt the raging seas than to remain in their current poor state and condition. Translation, they rather tempt the raging sea. They rather leave France and risk their lives on the seas that were raging, swallowing up ships, than to remain in their current poor state and condition. Than to remain in their current poor state and condition. They were vagabonds, y'all. These motherfuckers were like niggas on the IRT shaking cups. They were vagabonds. They were bums. They were rejects. Okay? They were rejects. It was worse than living in a fucking shanty town. Because they try to talk crazy about people coming from shanty town. No offense to the shanty townians. But yeah, these people were bums. They were drunkards. You know, they were drunkards. They were like dope fiends. And these are some of the people that niggas is calling founding fathers. Shame on you Negroes. The French built Fort Caroline near modern-day St. Augustine and gained knowledge of chiefdom, organization, and culture, meaning that they sat at the feet of some civilized people who taught them civilization. This contrasts with the English entry more than a century later into Carolina, where English settlers encountered relatively small bands, except for the powerful Westo. Don't you remember Game of Thrones? What is it? Is it not called Westeros? Is it not called Westeros? But right here you have the English encountered in the Carolinas upon their entry, right? The beginning of their quote unquote history in the Americas, they encountered a very powerful confederacy called the Westo, whose political culture was Iroquoian, not Mississippian. Thus, in the South, the Spanish interacted with large chiefdoms as well as small bands, whereas the English in the Carolinas had contact only with small bands, save for the large group of Iroquoian invaders from the north. This may have shaped English feelings of cultural superiority, for they saw in local Indian polities little that was recognizable in their own culture and thus deserving of respect. The Spanish, by contrast, appreciated the religious and political hierarchy of the chiefdoms that they encountered, and though they condemned native religion and political structures, they saw in these recognizable institutions a building block for incorporating Indians into their own polities and church. In sum, the outward forms more than the inner substance changed for Southern Indians from the pre-European contact to post-contact era, to the Europeans who engaged these people so different from themselves. The outward forms provided cultural clues on how contact and exchange could and should take place. The Spanish perceived in some of the Florida Indians structured societies in which priestcraft and politics were utterly entwined in a hierarchical structure akin to their own. The English could see nothing but anarchy in the Indians they met further north in the Carolina. The French, arriving in lower Mississippi Valley at the end of the 17th century, encountered both chiefdoms and bands, and they had the added advantage of sending many people who possessed long-term experience with a variety of native peoples in Canada, and even though that experience did not lead most French to accept indigenous cultures on their own terms, it allowed for some French to develop a keen understanding of Spanish societies, and least keener than the generally held by the English and Spanish. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to end it right there. Okay, we're not going to be doing this all night because, you know, it's getting kind of late, and that, you know, that's basically, it's a lot more, but that's what the lecture is for. You know, the link should be in the description. This is what it is. This is coming up on Sunday. Okay. Right here. You don't, we don't have to go anywhere. We'll be right here. Everybody who sends a Cash App it's a $20 Cash App for a ticket with your email, of course. You have to give me your email. And the day of the lecture, I will email everybody the link. And this will be a private room. It will be a private broadcast. And we will go to school together. We will learn. And it will be a visual presentation. And it will be between 3 and 4 hours. And I might even open up Q&A. I might bring the family in, depending on how much time we have. But I have a lot of information. I've been in the house working on this thing. There's certain things that I have to do business-wise that I put to the side because I got to get this information out. Because if I don't get it out, it could potentially take, you know, it has negative connotations when you hold it on. It's niggas walking around talking to themselves because they don't have outlets like this to dump this information that they get downloaded, that's coming to them, and it's getting downloaded to them, and they're being basically told by, you know, their ancestors, it's out to a certain amount of people. We're tasking you with this. So I have to get this out. This is part of my journey to teach this stuff, because it does no good in my melanated, in my third eye, or in my mind, if this information is being hoarded by me. There's no power in that. The power is when the information is shared. The power is when the awareness, because I'm not going to put you in fear during the lecture. I'm going to break you out of your fear. I'm going to show you how just in the month alone of January, they basically put us all in a perpetual state of fear. The date is February 9th, Sunday, 8 p.m. to midnight. And if you cannot make it, right? If you cannot make it, it will be on video on demand. So if you cannot make the lecture, you still are going to have the actual lecture in your inbox the next morning. So you could watch it at your convenience, right? You'll be able to watch it in your convenience without no one bothering you. You can watch it on your phone, your mobile phone, on the way home, on the way to and fro. So with that being said, I'm going to look at the support that we received tonight. Like I said, I thank everybody for their support. These are the banners for the, and I also have this lecture coming up too. This is important that we let the family know when we're doing things, because I'm always receiving emails and people are always asking. This is February 22nd. This is a major event. We're going to be rolling out a bunch of new things that we're doing, new technology, big news, big news at the Facts 2020. This is the launch of our campaign. Facts 2020 initiative is actually a campaign for the 2020 year. There's no presidential campaign. We're not going for office, but we're campaigning to our people, whoever they are. We only know who you are by you showing up. So there's no spec. The only way that I know who my people is if I meet them in the flesh. So we're putting on for the people. We have some powerful info. This is not for YouTube. I will not give out my strategies. I will not give out my plans. I will not give out my motherfucking intellectual property and my steps to YouTube. So this is not for the public in a sense that it's just not something that we're gonna do on the internet and throw out there. This show, this especially is for members, quality of membership. So if you want to be in the Facts Initiative, I'll see you on February 22nd, 222-2020, starting at 2 p.m. at the Eco Space, right around Yale College, right in the wonderful state of Connecticut. Shout out to King Philip. Contact 203-841-9039 if you want to ask any questions. Brother Heru, which is one of my good brothers. He's a promoter. He's also a radio personality, and he's also a community activist and an entrepreneur and a father. HOK, Connecticut. Shout out to my brother Trillionaire Trav. So vendors, I think they still have a little bit of space for the vendors. 203-841-9039. All right. Hosted by Brother Heru, Kevin Muhammad. Keynote speakers, Red Pill, Blue Pill, Trillionaire Trav, Sabrina Wright. And this will be available on live stream as well. So if you want to view this on live stream to see what we've been doing all of these months behind closed doors, what we've been building, what we've been creating, what we will be rolling out, what we have for the people, what are the solutions that are available for the quote unquote nation or the people. I don't know we gotta give you niggas a hashtag name because I don't like the people. It's not descriptive enough. You know how Rihanna got the Navy and B got the Beehive? We need some pride. Because I see that's how that works. The people need, I guess y'all need something. I'm gonna give y'all a name. You know, I'm gonna give y'all a name. I'm gonna give y'all maybe the KT Aliens. How do you like the KT Aliens? How's that sound? The KT Aliens. I like that. I like the KT Aliens. If you left Connecticut, it's all good. This is going to be on live stream. Once again, you know, technology is your friend, my guy. Be on live stream. We're not restricted anymore. We're not going to live in those boxes. You could live in El Segundo. You know what I'm saying? I need you to tap in. Don't get this information from a third party, because they'll never be able to translate this shit the way that you hear it live. Don't get it from a third party. Get it live. Yeah, so love and light. I'm out of here. All right. Also, we're going to be doing, we got another thing coming up. The Summit of the Moors in Delaware, March 21st. Juneteenth, North Carolina. Juneteenth, North Carolina. That's going to be humongous. KTL, first time in the Carolinas. Not the Carolinas per se, but the first time down there. We'll have more information about that. We'll be rolling that out. KTL, Juneteenth, Carolinas. Shout out to all of my Carolina family. And like I said, thank you everyone for pulling up and coming through. I didn't give a lot of information out, but I gave enough. You know, the brother's tired. It's 2:50 a.m. in the East Coast. You know, we can't do this to 3 in the morning, but I'm here doing this. You see how much I'm sacrificing. So if you want more information, you know what to do. There goes the ticker with all of that's the clothing. That's Facts 2020 to sign up, and that's Patreon. You know what I mean? Talk black to me. Love and light. Peace.